On the night of April 8th, 1914, A. Crowley, a wealthy, well-known British occultist, was sitting at his desk in Egypt writing down the first chapters of his book when he heard a voice whispering behind him. Over the next 5 days, what happened was frightening and disturbing. After Crowley's death in 1953, one of his estranged adult daughters was given some of his possessions. Among them was a small locked box. When she was able to open the box, she found some written notes from those 5 days. He'd kept them hidden from everyone over the years. The following has been transcribed to present-day American English. April 8th, 1914. As I was sitting at my desk tonight writing by the light of a candle, with Grace asleep in the next room, I heard someone behind me whispering my name. Crowley, Crowley. At first, I paid no mind to it, as I was deep in thought, as I always am while I write, thinking it may be Grace had woken up and was calling out to me. It continued on until I realized it was not Grace's voice. I immediately stopped writing, dropped my pencil, and thought to myself, shall I turn around to see what's behind me? In that moment, I felt fear and excitement. This may be the source I've been waiting to communicate with all these years, I thought. I slowly turned around and gasped at what I saw. There, before me, as a shadow on the wall, was a tall, dark entity. Excitement surged through me as I immediately asked the entity, "Who are you? What do you want?" "I am Balaam. I am here to teach you, Crowley," the entity replied. "Teach me what?" I asked it. "Of the dark realm where dark evil resides," Balaam responded. Balaam proceeded to tell me who he was and how he came to be. He said he was once a man who was born in Egypt in 68 BC. He'd had a family at one time, but they were slaughtered by a rival tribe, leaving him in despair. After his family was taken from him, he said his soul turned dark and he began dabbling in the black arts. One night he was trying to summon a spirit, and one answered his call. The spirit taught him of the existence of the dark realm and how to unleash dark evil into the world of man. In order to be accepted into the dark realm, he was told he needed to perform dark evil upon the earth. The entity went into great detail of what the dark realm was like, and how, if accepted into it like him, he'd be a god there. I listened intently to every word Balaam told me. There were things he forbade me to write down, and stated I must remember them. After several hours, he said he needed to leave, but would return the following night to teach me more. April 9th, 1914. I've been filled with great anticipation all day for Balaam to return. I served wine with dinner tonight so that Grace would be sure to fall fast asleep and not wake up. I can't have her disturbing us. As I'm writing this, the candle's flame is moving forward and is at a sideways position, as if there is wind pushing it down. It's quite impossible though, as there can be no draft in the room I am in, and the candle is not flickering, as it would with wind. It seems to be some type of unseen force physically bending it. "Crowley, I am here," said Balaam from behind me. I turned to see him in the exact spot as the previous night. "I've been awaiting your return all day," I said. "Tonight, young Crowley, I will teach you what needs to be set up in order for dark evil to enter the world of man. It requires your utmost attention and devotion," said Balaam. "I await your instructions," I replied with pencil in hand, ready to write. He then instructed me to construct a black pillar exactly 4 feet in height and 1 foot in width, made completely out of obsidian. This is to be the doorway for dark evil to enter our world. I will have to send for the black obsidian, as it does not exist locally here. Tomorrow I will task this out to the proper people. I suspect it should take a month or so to arrive, depending on how far away it must come from. Balaam said the pillar must be constructed in a certain type of area and out of sight from man, as it cannot be disturbed. The process to construct and complete it is complex and will take quite a bit of time. I'm going to have to leave Egypt for this. I know of such a place in Hammerfest, Norway. I was then told I must recruit another person to aid in the process of opening the doorway once the pillar is constructed. Balaam told me how I am to go about finding a person for this, as it has to be a special type of person. I was not allowed to write down these steps, lest they get into the wrong hands. There are forces out there that constantly seek to stop what we're doing. April 10th, 1914. All of my thoughts today have been focused for Balaam to return tonight. I sent Grace away on an errand this morning, one she won't return from until tomorrow late in the afternoon. As I write this, it is now evening. I can feel something in the room with me now. I have not heard my name yet, nor has Balaam appeared. It feels like something darker is with me now. It's a difficult feeling to describe. It's almost like a feeling of dread. I was sitting here in silence, experiencing this feeling. Then suddenly, "Crowley, I have returned," said Balaam. I turned to look, and there he was, as he had been the previous nights. "What I'm going to teach you tonight is of the greatest importance. This task must be completed first in order for you to move on to the other tasks," said Balaam. "I am ready," I replied. "You must prove your devotion to dark evil," he said. "Anything. I await your instructions," I replied. "You must kill Grace and the unborn child who resides inside her. This must be completed within 3 days from now. The child must die first, in the twilight hours before the stroke of midnight," he said. I immediately dropped my pencil and began to tremble. I had to make sure in my head there was no mistake in what I just heard. "I must kill Grace, kill the unborn child first. She is pregnant?" I asked. "Yes, Crowley," he responded. "Once the sacrifice is completed, you may start the other tasks," Balaam said. I turned around to look at him, but he was gone. I've sat here for quite a while, unable to move or think. It never occurred to me what I might have to do. I'm slightly torn at what must be done, but I can't deny what's happening. I fear not what happens to me in this mortal life, and I do not wish to go to heaven, if there is such a place. I do know darkness exists. Grace nor me knew she was with baby. April 11th, 1914. Grace should be returning home from her errand later in the afternoon. I've decided how I want to go about ending her life and the unborn child inside her. I think it best if I drug her dinner so there is no pain and no struggle on her part. I've decided on the method of death as well. It is now late into the afternoon, and Grace should be here momentarily. I prepared our dinner and added a significant amount of morphine into her portions, as I'd rather be higher with the dosage than under. After finishing dinner, the morphine took effect quickly. I now have her lying on my desk in the very room Balaam first appeared to me. I selected the longest knife we had in the kitchen to use as a cause of death. This will assure depth and the death of the unborn first. April 12th, 1914. Many times before midnight last night, I tried plunging the knife into Grace's abdomen and the unborn inside her, but ultimately, I could not do it. I have failed. Marks were left on her from repeated attempts. I will need to think of an explanation as to what happened to her being in a drug state and the marks on her belly. She is still sleeping, still suffering from the effects of the high morphine dosage I gave her. I suspect Balaam will no longer return due to my failure and refusal. I will, however, continue trying to communicate with him. I fear, though, I have forever ruined my chance at something I have long craved. As John Milton beautifully put it in Paradise Lost, better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. Grace never knew how close to death she came last night. I shall never tell her, nor will I mention the child growing inside her belly. Crowley went on to author several books related to the occult and magic. None were as dark or horrific as what almost took place in Egypt during those fateful days. He never spoke of a dark realm or dark evil. Several black obsidian pillars, like the one Crowley described in his notes, have been written about in stories and found over the centuries in various parts of the world. For more scary horror stories, please subscribe.